We now know what caused the crash of the Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8432 to crash. And it is kind of one of those that Russia is trying to keep under wraps. And with the help of survivors that are giving testimonies to a lot of photos and videos and just data that's out there, we can confirm exactly what happened and what caused the plane to actually crash. Because there are two different things at play here, and I figured there were so many questions in my videos, I figured let's go ahead and just kind of break down what we know. First, you have to understand what this flight is. It was going from Baku, which is in Azerbaijan, into Grozny, which is inside of Russia. Around this time, at least on Christmas Day, early in the morning, we started getting reports that our airplane had crashed, that flight had been hundreds of miles off course, and according to only Russian news, bird strike had been the main cause of this crash. But a lot of people like myself really don't believe half of the reports that come out from the Russian side, and it was almost immediately that people kept on saying, a bird strike wouldn't cause damage to a flight. A bird would obviously cause some engines to go down, in which, okay, you can maybe glide a little bit, but not glide hundreds of miles off course to a different country to land your plane. And it was almost instant that people started seeing pictures and videos from the crash site because there were actual survivors from this aircraft. For those who don't know, there were 67 people on board, including 42 from Azerbaijan, 16 Russian, and then a few others, plus they had different crews on board. And there was one gentleman who was filming his entire experience from the flight, which you could see right over here. The gentleman was filming after they already called for an emergency and that they were getting ready to go land somewhere. In the videos, you can see oxygen masks already down. You can see the plane is actually damaged. There are sections of the plane that are hanging off. These are just regular inside sections, so you can't really tell if there's any damage from the outside going inside. In it, you can hear people doing prayers and saying things to each other, and the gentleman's flipping his camera around. And in the next video, you can see the moments in which the plane then crashed into the ground, taken from a bystander. But that same gentleman who then took the photo or the video of inside then had videos showcasing just moments after the crash, which I'm not going to share with you because it is a little bit graphic. But you can see at that point there were a lot of people injured. There was a lot of blood and things on the ground, and so we're going to leave that out. But that gentleman then made his way out of the plane. It was at that point you could see that, yes, there were survivors, but the plane itself, from the video on the ground, you could tell, smashed into the ground, cracked in half, and exploded. And there's a lot that you can take from the video of the plane trying to land. You can see they had flaps down on the main wings. So clearly, yes, they were trying to land. They had their landing gear down. And you're probably saying, okay, well then, why couldn't they land? What was wrong with the aircraft that these two pilots who were highly skilled were unable to land this plane? I mean, you could tell they were trying to do it. And ultimately, the answer for this comes in the tail of the plane, which we'll get back to begin with. Now we have to go all the way back to Grozny, in which this plane was trying to land. According to data online, the flight was trying to land at that airport. Something happened. It circled a few times before then going over the Caspian Sea, before then heading over towards Kazakhstan. Now, why would it go to that airport? Why wouldn't it go to other airports? At least there were a ton others that they passed along the way. That's a good question we still don't technically know an answer to. But in Grozny, around the time that this aircraft was flying, Russia was sending air defense systems into the sky, surface-to-air missiles, in order to shoot down what they thought were potentially drones. Now, Ukraine at that time, they were doing an attack on a Russian position. We really don't know what they were going after, but Russia decided to send air defense missiles into the sky, into an area which it didn't look like Ukraine was actually attacking. It looked like they were going past it to go somewhere else, but Russia wanted to take down those drones. So they sent these surface-to-air missiles into the sky, and from the looks of it, from the videos that we see later on, it looks like one of those surface-to-air missiles exploded, sending shrapnel through this aircraft. Most importantly, in the tail of the aircraft. We know that shrapnel definitely hit it from all the photos and videos we've seen after this aircraft had crashed. One of the gentlemen took videos showcasing all of the holes, and you could see it all over the tail of this aircraft, which immediately had people saying, well, that clearly wasn't a bird strike. So why would Russia cover that up? Well, Russia in the past has done exactly the same thing, using air defense systems to take down commercial aircraft. And so this is something that Russia would want to cover up, which is why, as we're finding out, Russia did not want this aircraft to land inside of Russia because they wanted it to either A, crash into the Caspian Sea, or B, crash at a different airport. Now, this brings us to the videos you've seen of it crashing onto the airport. You can see flaps are down. You could see their wheels are down. Why did it crash? A lot of that has to deal with the very tail of the plane. A lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of mechanisms back there, whether it be the vertical stabilizer, the horizontal stabilizer, the rudder, the trim tabs, and the elevators. When that Russian surface-to-air air defense missile went off, it damaged that entire tail system, which means as the aircraft comes down for a landing, you can see that it goes like this, touches down the back before heading down. Well, they were unable to control those elevators or those trim tabs at all, which means they had no kind of movement, which is why when you see the plane go, it's going down this way because they can't use the back end in order to level it out or bring the nose up in order to bring it down. So that Russian surface-to-air missile exploded so close to the aircraft, clearly not hitting any drone. And so that damage either cut off hydraulics or other systems, which would cause the plane to then not have any kind of control, which is why it was probably circling around Russia. They knew that this was a problem, and Russia says, no, you're leaving our airspace and you're heading somewhere else, in which then you start seeing everything else unfold. You see it crash. You see the aftermath with all the shrapnel inside the tail of that aircraft, in which we don't even know if there was anyone either hurt during the initial explosion. In survivor reports that we've been seeing online, people say that when they were in Grozny, they heard explosions, they heard pops. And we really don't even know if survivors were told about this circumstance, except for the fact that they knew that something was wrong. You saw, their air masks come down, the oxygen masks come down. There were people obviously scared. More than likely, the pilots probably did say something because people were praying. If you're hundreds of miles away or where you're supposed to be, you've heard pops and explosions outside the aircraft, then yeah, you know something is up and something could be happening very soon. And when it comes to the shrapnel, because I know I've seen a lot of Russian groups say, oh no, that could be many different stuff. No, it's clearly blamed like that is straight up shrapnel. And you can see pictures of different you can even Google it yourself. You can look on your screen. You could see images of other aircraft that had the same thing happen to it, where whether it be a Russian aircraft that was military in the sky that Ukraine was firing at, or Russia doing the same thing to other commercial airlines, it is something that, yes, it did happen here. And so when you paralyze all of those instruments on the very tail of the plane from air defense systems and shrapnel, a crash was going to happen. It was going to happen. And that's why Russia wanted it out of its own country. And that's where we're at right now. Russia, believe it or not, at least at this very moment, they've yet to come forward and say that this is what happened here. Instead, they're actually doing the exact opposite. They're doubling down on the bird strike, and then they started putting out a lot more information out there of random things. Their foreign minister came out, started spewing random stories. We don't target civilian infrastructure. Ukraine does that. Then they talked about somehow ceasefires and how it would never work and we need a just peace, which just doesn't make any sense when they're the ones causing all the peace. And then they started with another rumor that, we actually destroyed an F-16 in Ukraine, Zaporizhia. All stories which are not true. Like, they just started spewing things out. And actually, as I'm recording this video, the website's just updating with more and more stuff. You've got Lukashenko saying they want to put 10 of those Hazels inside of Belarus, those experimental missiles that Russia maybe only has a handful of. They're just trying to put as many stories out there, which is going to angry people, just so that they can kind of cover up what happened here. That being said, this was an incident which Russia needs to be held accountable for. It's a war crime. They essentially attacked a civilian aircraft. That's what it comes down to. And now, I don't know if Azerbaijan is going to do anything about it, or Kazakhstan, or I don't even know. But something needs to happen, because this is not the first time that Russia has done this, and they swore never to do it again, and clearly they did. But hey, now you know what happened here. Let me know your comments and your thoughts on the situation. It truly is a situation in which Putin needs to put something out, but I don't think they're going to. That being said, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. Stay safe, everyone. See you later.